Autodesk 3ds Max Design 2011 introduced Quiksilver, an innovative new hardware renderer that utilizes both the GPU and CPU techniques to produce quality image at incredible speeds. Let's use this animated scene for example. Up until now, we were able to use Mental Ray renderer to have high quality and realistic look when creating architecture scenes. Although Mental Ray is still a valid renderer, it can sometimes be time-consuming when setting up your scene and rendering different tests. For example, this scene took almost 3 minutes to render at default settings with Mental Ray using depth of field. Let's run a comparison with the new and fast Quiksilver rendering options that you might consider in your workflow. We'll open the rendering setting window where I will switch my renderer to Quiksilver. First, you will notice that Quiksilver rendering settings only have 3 different tabs: the regular Common tab, the new Quiksilver rendering setting tab, and the render element tab. We will focus on the renderer tab and have a closer look at the rendering settings. Quiksilver settings are really simple to adjust. First, they are separated in 4 different categories: anti-aliasing, lighting, transparency and reflection, and depth of field. Let's render our first frame with the default setting. We'll include all the elements of our scene in the reflection, but you can easily pick and choose which element you want to have reflection interact with. Quiksilver gave me almost instant rendering result depending on the setting you are choosing, allowing you for multiple tests and easy adjustments. Now, this rendering might not be satisfying to understand your scene properly. In this particular case, this is an interior scene and I do need to calculate indirect illumination in order to bring realism. So we'll adjust some of the settings by increasing the anti-aliasing quality, adding ambient occlusion, indirect lighting, and also depth of field to replicate the rendering we did in Mental Ray. It's good to know that Quiksilver support large image output, direct and indirect lighting with standard and photometric lights, soft and hard shadow, adaptive shadow for finely detailed objects such as blinds and railing, exposure control, ambient occlusion, depth of field, and some render elements. Already, the result is much more superior and the rendering is still really quick at 45 seconds. Comparing side by side the Quiksilver rendering and Mental Ray rendering, you will see the quality is comparable with slight variation. But the rendering time speaks for itself. Mental Ray image took 2 minutes 50 seconds, while Quiksilver only took 45 seconds. Let's move to frame 78 of our animation and run some more tests. I will re-render this frame since it is so quick to render. You still have options to utilize region rendering to render some quick tests. Here, I will change the wall color and re-render a quick region. Quiksilver is also capable of rendering animation sequence at arbitrary resolution using batch rendering or command line backburner. Let's set this rendering option to an image sequence and give it a name. I will also increase the soft shadow precision to help the shadow cast by my blinds. If I was rendering this animation using Mental Ray at 2 minutes and 50 seconds per frame, it would take me about 4.5 hours to render the complete sequence. Using Quiksilver will take me approximately 1 hour and 36 minutes at 58 seconds per frame. Now this saves the day. You can render this complete animation during your lunch break and be ready for your presentation in the afternoon. Here, I have previously rendered an animation as a QuickTime and I will look at it. With Quiksilver, the time required to render high-fidelity preview animations and to create design dailies is no longer a bottleneck in your production.